My name is DeAndre Gary Siggas. I am 22 years old. I have a girlfriend for 8 months. I also am a beginning comedian and an extreme pervert, ignorant, obnoxious, rude, loud, mean, nice, loving, caring, loyal, devoted, beginning comedian. And this is my life. What's up, cigarettes? This is Siggas, and this video is about my life. This is a warning to you guys. This is not a comedy video. This is not a sketch video. You probably won't laugh. If you do, I'm happy. But if you want comedy, if you want to laugh, and don't want to know the real me, please watch a different video. I will be telling you very true facts. I'll be telling you things that have happened to me in my life, because I realize you guys don't know who I really am. And if you guys have a lot of things to do and you still want to watch this video, I, in the describe bar, will put those stupid numbers where you can click on it and go to exactly what I'm talking about. So please look at the describe bar. This video is about my life, how I grew up, people I knew, things that have happened to me, because you guys don't know who I really am. So I want to take this time to show you guys the real Siggas. I hope you don't enjoy it, because I sure did enjoy living this shitty life. Roll the credits. My mother's name is Sharon Arthur. My mother wasn't a good mom. She had a lot of promiscuous sex. She had her first child, my oldest sister Elana, at 15. She met my sister's father, Spencer, at a party and had sex with him at 15. Got pregnant, had Elana. My mom then met my father, Gary Siggas, at a place called Job Corps. She met Gary, and 2 weeks before she graduated, ran off with Gary and got pregnant with my sister, Sade. So I got two sisters, older sisters. After my mom got pregnant with Sade and gave birth to Sade, my mom got pregnant with me, gave birth to me. So she now has 3 kids. After me being born, my father was abusive to my mother. He pushed her around. He cheated on her a lot. He had many other children, and he left her. But he didn't leave her, really. She left him. It was mutual, I suppose. My mom then met her current husband, Ahmed Ajal, while she was still kinda with Gary. Well, she wasn't with Gary, she was still married to him, but they were broken up. And Ahmed, he was an African man from Africa. My mom fell madly in love with this man, and this man impersonated a lawyer to my father Gary and made my father Gary sign these papers, signing over his right of being my father. So he signed over the rights, basically. I had no father. I then never saw my father again until I was 17 years old, in which case he asked me for a couple of bucks so I could buy him a 6-pack of beer, and then stole $30 from my grandmother's medicine money. When I was 3 days old, my mother wanted to give me up for adoption. She didn't like having 3 children. She didn't like having responsibilities. But my grandmother, her mother, Irma Arthur, who is now deceased, and my mother, who is now deceased, my grandmother said, "No, I will not allow you to send him to foster care. I will raise him as my own, as my son. My grandmother, Irma Arthur, and my family is from an island called Barbados. My grandmother was such a strong, loving, compassionate woman. She was married to my grandfather, my step-grandfather, Army Arthur, for a couple of years, about 22 or 21 years. My grandmother had 3 children, my mother, my Uncle Brian, and my Uncle Kevin. My grandmother was a widow when she died because my grandfather died on Good Friday, I believe 2001. My grandfather had at least 5 strokes before he died. And my mom never liked my grandmother because my grandmother never married my mother's father, so my mom never liked my grandmother for that. She always resented her. My grandmother decided to move to North Carolina with me, my 2 uncles, and my grandfather. My mother decided to stay. By that time, my mother decided that she didn't want any children and gave away Elana to her grandmother, Sade to her grandmother, Gary's mother, my father, and me to Irma Arthur, grandma. We moved to North Carolina, Greenville, and it was an amazing time in my life. It was so fun. Played in this giant grass, you know. It really helped me. And I remember the first time I made people laugh was at Greenville, North Carolina. I was playing outside, and these old ladies were sitting outside, and I decided to make jokes for them. And I was making fun of this dude with this little red truck, and they were laughing, and I was like, yeah, I'm funny. After my first gig at 5 years old, I decided to sit outside in this giant lawn chair and eat some Cheetos. I love Cheetos. When I was sitting in this lawn chair, I felt a giant sting in the back of my head. I put my hands to the back of my head and I looked down, and it was full of blood. I looked behind me, and this same kid I was making fun of with the red truck busted me in the back of the head with a baseball bat. I remember my mind racing afterwards. Like, I would see crazy things and I would act more goofy, and something happened to me after I got my head busted in the head with a bat. I was in Greenville for 2 years. I turned 7, and once I was 7, my grandmother's health started failing. She already had diabetes and a bad heart. My grandmother was so strong, she wouldn't complain. And when we moved from Greenville, was my grandmother, my Uncle Kevin, the second oldest. My Uncle Brian, who was the youngest, decided to stay in North Carolina with his wife, Rosa. So it was me, my grandma, my grandfather, and my Uncle Kevin moving to Houston, Texas to be with my family, mom, sisters, stepfather, etc. We got to Houston, Texas, and Houston looked so horrible, so disgusting. It just looked so bad. There I met my stepfather and my sisters, and we had just fun. It was fun. We all had to stay together in like this 3-bedroom apartment, but it was so fun meeting my sisters and having fun with my sisters. And I remember the first night in Houston, Texas, my sister, the oldest, Elana, woke me up while I was sleeping, and she asked me if I wanted to play a game. So, me being 7 years old, I said yes. First night in Houston, Texas, meeting my older sister again, and she molested me. Oral sex. And she would do this occasionally for the next year. And I didn't know it was wrong. I didn't know I shouldn't be having oral sex with my sister. We would touch each other. We lived with my grandmother, my mother, and my stepfather and all them for like 2-3 months, and my grandmother was going to start looking for a new apartment for her, me, my Uncle Kevin, grandfather. My mother didn't want that, so my mother coerced me and told me, look, DeAndre, you're here with me, you're here with your sisters, this is the place you should be. Tell your grandmother you don't want to move in with her. So, doing what my mother told me to do, I told my grandmother I didn't want to move in with her. So, my grandmother didn't take that very well, because I was her favorite. She was very sad. And after my grandmother moved, the abuse started. Molestation, beatings, whoopings with leather belts, and just for 4 years, just beatings. And my mother, she would cuss us out. One time she cussed us out for eating all the chicken. What kind of racist? We ate all the chicken, me and my 2 sisters. It was only like 6 pieces, and my mom just went off calling me just, I wish I had an abortion, you a-hole, F you, I wish you were dead. Just went off on me and my sisters. She would verbally abuse us so often. My mother had a temper like no one you have ever seen. That's probably where I get my temper from. My stepfather would beat us with belts. I mean, big, thick, just belts, just whoosh. Pinch us and hurt us. And my mother, there were occasions where she would use her fists on us, and once she busted my nose, and once she busted my lip. The second year I lived with them, my stepfather decided he would give us showers, and while we were in the shower, he would touch us inappropriately without the washcloth when he was washing us. And he did this on 2 occasions with me, but it wasn't sexual, but it was inappropriate. I was 8, 9 years old. He did it again when I was 10 or 11, twice, and it really messed me up. It wasn't nice. It wasn't a good experience. Have you ever had a shirtless African man put a loofah in your 8-year-old anus? Around this time, my grandmother got so sick, diabetes. She had a triple heart bypass surgery. She beat cancer, high blood pressure. She had many operations. Every week, she would go to the hospital. You think I'm lying? It hurt me so badly. My sister would begin to beat me and my other sister too. My sister would do this thing, put your hands on the wall. We would put our hands on the wall and she would beat us with belts. After a while, my sister Elana decided that she would tell my mom about the sex and molestation she was having with her father. And when she told my mother this, my mom wanted to go to the police. But my sister didn't want my mother to go to the police because my sister didn't want her father going to jail. My mom didn't go to the police about my sister's father having sex with her. And as a result, the father had sex with my sister again when she was 13. After the sex with her own father and coping with that, my sister Elana became a homosexual, a lesbian. When she decided to tell my mom went into a gay outrage. I am not taking care of a fag. I do not like fag in my home. And she started to gay bash my sister. And as a result, my mom began to be meaner and the abuse was more. My sister had a crush on a teacher. And my mom found out because the teacher wanted a teacher conference. So they went to this school, my mom and my stepfather, and the teacher told my mom and stepfather how Elana wanted to have sex with her and gave her notes. And when Elana got home, the biggest beating I ever seen in my entire life, I mean just punching me in the face and ripped her ear, bleeding all over her shirt, slapping in the face, punching in the face, beating in the couch, just destroyed this girl. Got a belt, slammed the belt on her back, told her took off her shirt, she was only wearing a bra, punching her in the stomach, punching her in the back, beat her ass 10-15 minutes. And when I saw this abuse, I said I cannot allow this any longer. And I was crying to my sister Sade because I peeked my head out of that door to see that abuse. And I said to my sister, we cannot live here anymore. My goal in life was to be with my grandmother again, to live with my grandmother again. Every time it was time for our weekly beatings, either the house wasn't as clean as my stepfather, who is a germaphobe, and I never met an African germaphobe. If the house wasn't spotless, he would see one piece of paper on that ground like that. He would go into outrage and beat us with leather belts. And he came home and he saw a piece of paper. He went to outrage. And every time before our beatings, I would take the trash and say, I'm going to go take out the trash. And him being a germaphobe, he would never stop me and say, no, you're not going to go take out that trash. He would always say, go take out the trash. And I would just sit outside and sit on the grass and cry and pray to God that he will allow me to be with my grandmother once again. 4 years, man. From 7 to what? It was 4 years, what, 11? Uncle Brian decided to move to Houston, Texas because his wife Rosa died, my first aunt. He came to Houston, Texas because grandmother's health was failing. And grandpa. Grandpa started having a lot of strokes. They had to put him in the hospital. Later on, he died. Good Friday, 2001. My sister Elana ran away from home. We were with our grandmother during Christmas, and Elana was on punishment, and she went out anyway. My mom found out. My mom said she's going to beat her when she got back and sent her to military school. As a result, Elana ran away from home and told CPS, Child Protective Services, the abuse and molestation she went through with my stepfather, in which case I didn't know. She was also being molested. She said that he would stick Q-tips on her vagina and all kind of crazy stuff. As a result, CPS took me and my two sisters out of the home and gave us to my grandmother. And I was so happy. Oh. My grandmother and my Uncle Brian were my guardians, legally by the state. And as a result of us moving there, we had nothing. We had no clothes. We had no shoes. My mom took most of the clothes and shoes back. She gave us one pair of shoes and like 5 shirts and 5 pants. She took all the clothes back, and my mom decided to stay with my stepfather, even though we told my mother about this abuse, about the hittings, and we didn't like that. Even though CPS said that these children were probably molested, my mom decided to stick with her man instead of her children. We moved into a 1-bedroom apartment. 6 of us. My 2 sisters, me, my grandmother, and 2 uncles. 6 people in a 1-bedroom. Me, my sister, and my grandmother would sleep in her bed. My sister and 2 uncles would sleep in the living room. They all had their own sections. My Uncle Brian would sleep in the room with us sometimes. And it was bad because my grandmother had no money for us. She got us Payless shoes, and it was real bad. And after a while, my sister Sade didn't want to stay with my grandmother anymore. She wanted to move back with my mom and stepfather. There was never charges brought up on my stepfather for what he did by CPS because Elana told them she was lying because she didn't want to go to trial. She didn't want to be on trial. So she told them she was lying when she wasn't. So they dropped the charges, but we still stayed with my grandmother legally. So my sister Sade decided that she would move back with my mom and stepfather. Uncle Brian found his wife, Nicole, and he got remarried and moved out. I never really had friends. The friends I had either left me, used me. Girls never really liked me. After my 8th or 7th grade year, I was put inside of this real bad school. My sister Elana decided to run away from home again. But this time, when she decided to run away from home, she was going to stay gone. A few months later, after she ran away, CPS came back into our lives. And CPS said that Elana was pregnant. My sister by her uncle Kevin. They tested my uncle. They gave him a lie detector. He failed. Turns out the baby was his. Turns out my uncle Kevin, since my sister Elana was 14, he would pay her $100 to have sex with her. And she did this for years until she was 17, and she decided to move out and she was pregnant. She later had the baby aborted. I started to act out. I started to do bad things. I started to steal. I stole money from family. I stole from friends. I started to beat people up. I started to act out real bad, and I got in trouble with the law so often. By the time I was 17, I went to jail twice. One time for 4 months, other time for 3 days. By the time I was 17, I was on probation 4 times for 4 years. My sister Elana decided to stay away from our family and live on her own by herself, stealing and robbing too, and doing wrong things. We started off with 6, and then it was only me and my grandmother left, living together. It was beautiful, and it was sucked because I had to take care of my grandmother because of her failing health. And I didn't like doing that, I'm not gonna lie. But I love my grandma. Ooh, I love my grandma, man. And when I was 16, my comedy started manifesting itself, and I started being funnier and making better jokes. I was put inside this bad class called DC, Discovery Center, or Damaged Children. And in that class, I would make this teacher called Mrs. Cooper laugh so hard. And I decided that I'll keep making her laugh. And one day she gave me a notepad and a pen, and she said, I want you to become a comedian. And ever since then, I wanted to be a comedian. And no one believed in me, except my grandma, a little bit. Girlfriends didn't believe in me, friends. I used to work at a place called HEB for 2 years. I told them I wanted to be a comedian, and they told me I couldn't do it. They made fun of me every single day for 2 years. By the time I was 16, I got in trouble for punching a police officer in the face. That resulted in me going to jail for 4 months, which changed my life, which made me a better person. In jail, I heard a young man being raped in the shower. I had to clean up his rape, the blood in the shower. I had to clean up. And I said, I'll never come back to jail. And I kept to that promise, except for an incident that happened when I was 19 or 20. No, I was 20. Wrongly arrested for a crime I didn't commit, and I had to go to jail for 8 days, which is in the Locked Up series. If you want to take a look at that, you can just type in Locked Up. You'll see a funny story, true story too. And after coming out of jail, I did 1 more year of probation. I was off of probation when I turned 18. Met and fell in love with this girl when I was 16 named Kayla. We dated for 2 years. She really messed me up. She really destroyed my self-esteem. She really hurt me. And as a result, I started to hurt myself, like try to commit suicide. I tried to commit suicide 4 times. Got checked at the hospital. Comes to find out I'm mentally crazy. I got paranoia, schizophrenia. I got a typical depression. I got schizophrenia. I got borderline personality disorder is what they call that. And 5, I was in high school. I used to go to Elsick High School. Same school Beyonce graduated from. And it was my final year. And I was still working at HEB for 2 years. And I had a girlfriend and everything was good. And something happened and just everything failed. My grandma got even sicker. And my girlfriend cheated on me with my enemy. And I lost my job. And because my grandma got so sick and because I was so depressed, I was looking for a way out. So I decided to drop out of high school, my 12th grade year, with 6 months to go. Never got my GED, nothing. After I dropped out for many years, I slept every day. Depression made me get fat. I used to be skinny until I found JTV. Someone bought me a webcam and told me I would be funny if I did live broadcasting. I started doing live broadcasting every single day because I was so depressed and I had nothing to do. Every single day, all day. And it made me funnier. It made me better. It made me smarter. It made me different. And I made lots of money on JTV, lots of fans. I started uploading my prank calls to YouTube and starting to have a buzz. I got 4,000 subscriptions on YouTube. And I was on JTV for 3 years. Still go on, but not as much. And for the next 2 years, I worked on YouTube, getting famous on YouTube. Because I knew if I got famous on YouTube, I would be famous online. And my goal, I had 3 goals. First goal was to take over JTV, which I did. Second goal was to take over the world online. I always said the next greatest, biggest comedian will come from online if they establish a connection with fans that is unheard of. And that is what I'm still trying to do. So that's why I answer every email, and I try to answer as many Twitter questions, and I try to be there for the fans. So I started building an empire online. 2009 or 8, I think it was 8. I got in trouble for an incident I didn't do. It's called the Locked Up series. I almost went to jail for 10 years. That year, 2000, I think it was the beginning of 2008, and then it was 2009 we did a trial. 2009 was the worst year of my life. My mother died. The mother I never had. The mother I never got to tell how I felt. The mother I never showed any accomplishment to died. She had a seizure. I believe my stepfather had something to do with her death. That's what I believe. I'm probably wrong. Then people around me started to die. I had a comedy mentor. I used to go to comedy clubs. I went to about 3 or 4 of them. He died. His name was Al Rhodes. He was so great, so nice. A friend from high school named Ebony I knew died. One of my favorite teachers died. Everybody dying around me. I didn't know what to do. Because of the death of my mother, my sister Elana came back into my life. At the funeral, which is documented, at my mother's funeral, my stepfather wouldn't let me go to talk on the behalf of my mother. He didn't put my name in the obituary. There was like, she had no son. They didn't put my sister Elana in the obituary either. She even put the dogs in the obituary. They're dogs. I later found out that my stepfather was cheating on my mother through their entire 10-year marriage with a woman named Deborah Bobbs. This same woman called me to tell me my mother died. So my stepfather had the woman he was having sex with call me to tell me my mom died. I know he was having sex with this woman because this was the same woman that my mom and stepfather separated for a brief time because my stepfather was cheating on my mom with this woman. So they already separated once because of this woman. So after they got back together, he was still seeing this woman for 10 years. I think my stepfather had something to do with my mother's death, because my mother came to me in a dream. I get visions from people from the afterlife. Jesus came to me in a dream to tell me that to pursue comedy and to break up with my now ex-girlfriend. 2 weeks later, my girlfriend told me she was cheating on me, and we broke up. Then my grandfather came to me in a dream. He died in 2001. And then my mom came to me in a dream after she died. And after I cried at her funeral and stormed out of her funeral, my mom came to me and told me that she saw everything my stepfather has done and did do to her. Now that she's dead, she sees everything. And when he dies, they won't be together anymore. The day my mother died, this exact day, my grandmother suffered 2 heart attacks at the same time. The later part of 2009, after 11 months, I was freed of all charges and was not going to go to jail for 10 years. In 2010 was the year of the Siggas. I was going to get 50,000 subscriptions. I was going to be big man. My sister Elana decided that she would steal money from my grandmother, $20. And my sister Elana, I forgot to add this, was pregnant with twins during my mom's death. She decided to have sex with this guy while she was high on handlebars. Got pregnant with twins. Decided to give one of the twins away. Kept the other twin. Stole $20 from my grandmother. Left again. A week before my sister came back, a week before my mother died, I had a dream that my sister came back, and I tried to kiss my sister, but she wouldn't let me because she had a disease. A week later, sister's back, 2 babies, drug addict. 2010 was my year. Nothing bad happened in 2010, really, until my grandmother died on August 21st, 2010. And I still remember the moment she died. She went to the hospital because she couldn't breathe. They put her on all kinds of oxygen. They said she had blood clot in her lungs and in her leg. They say they may had to, she was going to be paralyzed in one of her legs. They stopped it. And I knew something was wrong, because usually my grandma gets sick, she jumps back all the time. But this time she wasn't jumping like she usually is. So the day before she died, I decided to go see her because she had an urgency in her voice to see me. So I went to see her. And I kept telling her, please don't die. We had a good talk. She listened to my music, and she was just good. Then I came home and I went to sleep. Then the next day I get a phone call from the hospital. Grandma's not doing good. You need to come down here and see her. The nurses are in there with her. That's what a nurse told me. I go down lightning speed to see my grandma because I knew she was gone. Either her legs were going to get amputated or she was dead. I knew it. And I drove in that car and I called everybody. I said, you need to get down here, Uncle Brian. You need to get down here, Godmom. I forgot Mom. You need to get down here, Aunt Ann. That's my auntie. And I called everybody. And I'll never forget it. I was crying. I got into that emergency room. They said she was on the 2nd floor. I go into the 2nd floor, and the nurse was in there, and she did the close the curtains, and she saw me. The nurse came up to me, and I remember everything. I said, "Is she dead? Is she dead?" The woman looked at me and said, "We did all we could." And I stared at that wall, the pure white wall, for 2 minutes, not saying anything, not blinking. And the woman said, Sir, are you okay?" And then I just let out the biggest yell of my life. And I just started thrashing and stomping around like a freaking dinosaur, screaming, slamming my hands down. I didn't get to prove to her I'm a better person. I'm a good person. My grandma was dead. The only person that cared about me, the only person. They didn't let me go to foster care. Dead. And I'm by myself now. No job. No money. How am I going to get my own apartment? How am I going to do better things? By myself. Nobody helping me. Only family I have, really, Uncle Brian. Blood. That's it. Mom, dead. Sister, drug addict. Other sister wants nothing to do with the family because she's with my stepfather. Father, gone. Who knows where? By myself. Nobody. I had 7 days to get out the apartment, find my own apartment, turn off the lights, inform everyone she was dead, make the obituary, get the dress to the funeral home. And I have never even paid my own bill. Never. I was 21 years old. 7 days. And in 7 days, I got my own apartment. In 7 days, I brought the dress to the funeral home, even though my piece of crap car tire exploded on the way up there. I got the dress to the funeral home on time. I got my own apartment, my own lights. I turned off all the lights, turned off all the freaking internet, all the stuff in the old apartment, paid my own bills. And then I worked hard for months to get more subscribers so I can at least start making a decent wage online, so I can live a little bit. And I talked back to every single person that emailed me. I tried. Bust my ass in forced and talking into cameras for hours. And by the end of 2010, I had over 200,000 subscriptions. And I did everything beyond what I wanted to do, and I'm still trying to do that today. In memory of my grandmother. My grandmother came to me in a dream before the Pokemon video blew up, before everything. And she came to me in a dream because I see people from the afterlife in my dreams. You don't have to believe, I don't give a damn. She came to me and she was smiling, she was happy. And she said, "You are going to have an amazing destiny ahead of yourself. Just don't worry. It's going to be okay. You're going to have an amazing destiny ahead." And then I woke up. And when I woke up, the Pokemon video. No, not the Pokemon. The Toys R Us video hit. That's when the Toys R Us video hit. Then the Pokemon video hit. And then all these videos hit. Like nothing. And it brings us to today. 22 years old, 236,000 subscriptions. A girlfriend for over 8 months. And I'm still leaps and bounds away from where I want to be. So, I doubt anyone seen this whole video. It's too long, and people on YouTube have the attention span of a gnat. So I doubt anyone's gonna watch this whole thing. For the few 2,000 people that do, thank you very much. I appreciate it, and keep watching. This is only the beginning. I'm not going to fail. YouTube can shut me down today, right now, and somehow I will find a way to conquer my dream of becoming one of the greatest comedians of all times. It's going to happen. It is set in stone that it will happen. I am looking all of you in your face right now. You can believe it. You can say you're fat, nigger, coon, all that bullshit you want to say. But I'm telling you right now, I will one day have my own Comedy Central Presents. I will have my own movies. I will be on TV. I already was on TV, but more. I will do it. And when I do it, I will still be there for all of you, because I love all of you, and I thank all of you for watching The Real Siggas. This is who I am. I'm vulgar, I'm rude, I'm loud, I'm obnoxious. This is who I am. Thank you.